What's good, folks? Welcome back to the Furnished Mind. And remember, Christ is King. Let's go. Well, it's 2024. Happy New Year's, everyone. And one particular story that I've been waiting to be unsealed is what we see on the screen right now. The list regarding Jeffrey Epstein's clientele. Nobody thought this day would come. Nobody thought this would come at all. It's been delayed for so long. We thought, like, hey, you know what? We can complain about it. We can talk about it on Twitter. But at the end of the day, this is not going to happen because all the people on the list are the power players, all the top dogs in society, the ones that have power and influence, and they're going to prevent it at all costs, whether it's them specifically or their friends. So, court documents naming Epstein's associates to be unsealed. What to know? So, of course, hundreds of sealed court filings pertaining to the late offender Epstein are set to be made public this week, and several prominent names, including Britain's Prince Andrew and former President Bill Clinton, are expected to appear in the documents. A U.S. district judge ruled earlier this month that there's no legal justification for continuing to conceal the ex-president's name and more than 150 names other than John and Jane Doe's, because, of course, they did not want to reveal the names, so they labeled them all as John, Jane Doe 1, 2, 3, etc. So basically, U.S. District Court Judge Loretta Preska ordered the unsealings to begin after January 1st. So 2024 has a little more significance than just being a brand new year and everything it has to offer. We're going to see justice happen on the highest level, and we're going to see if we're going to be willing to carry it out as an international community. So, of course, the documents stem from a 2015 civil lawsuit centered on the allegations that Epstein's one-time paramour, Ghislaine Maxwell, she facilitated the sexual abuse of Virginia Giuffre, an alleged trafficking victim. Giuffre also accused Epstein and Maxwell of directing her to have sex with Prince Andrew and several other prominent men. Of course, Prince Andrew denied the allegations and claimed he could not recall ever meeting Giuffre, but he later settled a lawsuit she filed against him. Most of the prominent names that appear in the documents are already associated in some way with Epstein for allegations of wrongdoing, for having worked for Epstein, flown on his planes, visited his homes. Some were mentioned during Maxwell's criminal trial in 2021. In some instances, the only appearances of the names are in potential witnesses lists or in proposed terms for searches of electronic records. And if you guys remember, Ghislaine Maxwell's trial was significant because everybody was tuned in. They wanted to watch it happen, but of course there's courtroom protocols that did not allow the trial to be televised. Of course, the rules did exist prior to the case, but everyone was still outraged because they wanted to hear the names that were going to be named. But because it wasn't televised, no one ever got to hear those names. So while Giuffre's allegations against Prince Andrew and his denials have been widely reported, dozens of sealed records are expected to contain additional details from Jane Doe 162. A witness testified she was with Prince Andrew, Maxwell, and Giuffre at the age of 17. She disclosed that she was at Epstein's New York mansion, amongst other places. Giuffre has alleged that the gathering in 2001 was one of the occasions she was directed to have sex with Prince Andrew. So as of right now, like it says, we're getting ready to see if these names are unsealed. The judge stated that by January 1st, we're going to start seeing the list unsealed. There's no legal justification for not doing it. Of course, their fear is that their power structure and apparatus is going to grind to a halt and potentially collapse. Because we've all known there's a two-tiered legal system. As they say, rules for thee, but none for me. And those who have power, who have wealth and fame, they, for some strange reason, always appear to be immune to the legal processes that you or I would usually be subject to. So people are ready to see, like, how bad is this going to be? Is this going to be, we'll lose just a few media members? Are we losing prominent attorneys and judges? Are we losing presidents? How bad is it going to be? What other world leaders are involved on this list? Are we going to see a collapse of a nation? Is it going to be that bad? Or is it just going to be a PR nightmare for another campaign? So many questions to ask. So there are personal flight logs kept by one of Epstein's pilots, which surfaced in a separate lawsuit against Epstein to show that Clinton and his entourage actually flown extensively on Epstein's jumbo jet to international destinations such as Paris, Bangkok, and Brunei in 2002 and 2003. So, the flight logs cannot lie. For anybody to step foot on those planes, of course, their names have to be included on the flight logs, the time, the dates, etc. So there's no way around that. So basically, the court documents to be unsealed this week represent the eighth and likely final round of unsealing records from the case since the Miami Herald intervened for access to the records in 2018. Previously unsealed items included multiple deposition transcripts of Maxwell and Guffey, along with sworn but unproven allegation that Epstein and Maxwell directed Guffey to have sex with several well-known men, including former Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell, late model scout Jean-Luc Brunel, billionaire hedge fund manager Glenn Dubin, and others. Maxwell denied the allegations, as did all the men identified by Guffey when their names surfaced. So the interesting thing here is that President Clinton, Bill Clinton, former President Bill Clinton, of course, ABC News has learned is identified as Doe 36. So that was another anonymous name that they used to cover up the clientele list. They just label it as Doe 36. And apparently ABC News is verifying that Doe 36 is former President Bill Clinton. Not only is he's mentioned more than 50 times of the redacted filings, according to court records. Several of those sealed or redacted entries are focused on an effort by Guffey's lawyers in mid-2006, first reported by ABC News, to subpoena the two-term Democratic president for a deposition testimony about his relationship with Epstein. What was so unique about this, obviously being 2016, is that Guffey's legal team initiated informal discussions with attorneys for the then unnamed witness on June 9th, 2016. That was a few days after the former president's wife, Hillary Clinton, clinched the Democratic nomination for president. So guys, it got in the way of power. Because remember, in 2016, they almost were 99.9% sure that Hillary Clinton was winning the presidency. They had no idea Trump was going to come out of nowhere and win, which he did. So it looks like some strings were pulled, some power moves were made, and they basically forced that to go into hush-hush mode. So of course, Ghislaine Maxwell, the dirtbag that she is, she called the move to question Hillary Clinton utter nonsense and transparent ploy by the victim, Guffey, to increase media exposure for her sensational stories through a deposition sideshow. And that was what her attorney, Laura Menninger, wrote, according to an unredacted section of a court filing. So Ghislaine Maxwell is still in denial mode. She's saying that this is just a ploy from Guffey, who was 17 at the time, mind you, to gain media exposure. For reasons unknown why somebody would want to gain exposure in that way, that's sickening. And the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell had that stated publicly just kind of lets you know the kind of depraved mind that she has. So according to a procedure that was established by Judge Preska, attorneys for each of the Does, remember that's their label since they didn't reveal their names. So attorneys for each of the Does were offered a preview of the court files containing their names before determinations were made about unsealing the records. Each person was afforded an opportunity to argue for keeping the records sealed. I don't know why they went to such great lengths to allow them to argue for it to remain sealed. I say you should have just released it, but she did. Clinton's legal team, after reviewing the excerpts, did not lodge any objections to the publication of the documents, according to Preska's order last month. A spokesperson for Clinton also declined to comment for this story. Let's allow their legal teams one by one to argue their case before we release it. So this is the kind of energy we're working with here. So of course, man, I'm very interested in what's going to happen here. I'm going to be paying attention to this story probably more than most, unless some other crazy things happen this year. But let's continue to just kind of keep our eye out and pay attention to what gets released. So New York reinstates compulsory quarantine. This article is a little older, but I just wanted to cover this one, just kind of showing people the overreach by government that's still going on the state level. This is in New York, of course. Basically, New York State's 4th Judicial Department has reinstated a controversial policy that empowers the state government to lawfully order people to involuntarily isolate or quarantine in order to prevent the spread of highly contagious diseases. Guys, the new war front is no longer going to be man versus man on the battlefield. It's going to be through the release of diseases. Or as the Bible says there'll be a use of pestilence in the last day. These guys are inventing new ways to commit evil atrocities against the general population. And they're ways that they decided with players such as Bill Clinton and a lot of those World Economic Forum characters. It's using disease. They're creating disease in the lab. That's why Wuhan was such a huge story and such a huge issue, is because if these guys are designing viruses to be released in the general population, that's the way to fight against the general population. You force them to comply through vaccinations, and if they don't receive said vaccination, you then blot them out from society through isolation. And New York State is getting ready to lead the brigade with this controversial policy, which of course is a government overreach. They're saying basically if there's a contagious disease like what we went through in 2020, if you don't take whatever shots they deem necessary, it could be 1, it could be 10, it could be 20. They have the power to take you from your home, your children from your home, and throw you into quarantine. Sounds very George Orwellian, doesn't it? But there's this clip I wanted to share in regards to this. Let's listen to what this guy has to say.
New York City, Rule 2.13 Isolation and Quarantine Procedures, published November 22nd, 2023. Let's talk about it, New York. The government now has legal authority to remove residents from their homes and force them into quarantine camps. There is no age restriction. Children could be removed from their homes without parental consent. They do not need to warn citizens when they are coming or how long they must be quarantined. You will be required to take any tests, any steps the state mandates, including taking medications against your will. There is no due process, no court hearing, no none of that. They can do what they want. This is what's going on while we sitting up here online talking about these celebrities, talking about P. Diddy and all this stuff that's going on with Cassie. You got men and women, you got all these women on here telling men what's feminine about what they doing, talking about, oh, men wear jewelry, that's feminine. Why are men complaining about going 50-50 in a relationship? This is the type of stuff that's going on while we're being distracted by bullshit. Because none of that stuff is important. The so-called black man and black woman, when are y'all gonna get it? We're being played. We're being used, manipulated. Okay? They're using us against each other. How y'all don't get this? I don't get it how y'all don't get this. It's frustrating to come on here. I'm scrolling, chilling, and I keep seeing men and women beefing. Men and women beefing. Men and women. I don't even know why that stuff pop up on my page. I don't even like those type of posts on my page. So why does it keep popping up on my page? But at the end of the day, like I said, this is what's going on. They can come in our cribs at will and snatch our children, bro. You know what I'm saying?
That really puts things in perspective right there. Slowly but surely, while everybody is lost and caught up in entertainment and all the distractions of the world, they're slowly taking away our civil liberties, and we're not paying any attention at all. Isolation and quarantine procedures, on the outside, it looks like it's just safety measurement. People won't pay attention to it, but when you start reading, this is what you get. They now have complete and utter control in who gets quarantined. And this is just New York, but expect to see this nationwide, in my opinion. I don't think this is going to be limited to just our largely populated states. I think it's going to be all over. These are some very interesting topics here, some that stand out to me. I've been following for a while now. The issue with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and then obviously this one with Rule 213 in New York. Government overreach sounding like a 1984 book. But you guys let me know your thoughts. What do you guys think? Down in the comments, go ahead and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Deuces.